Kim. Welcome back to Healing Cottage Homestead. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm so happy to have you with me today. Today we're going to make a couple of things, and it's Homestead Sunday. So I was hungry for some type of bread. I don't make bread very often. And I was hungry for some type of bread, and I had these biscuits that are expiring in my refrigerator, and I decided to make something that I haven't made in many years, which are cheddar cheese biscuits. So all you do is flatten out your biscuit, and you can add garlic powder to these. I'm going to add some minced onion and cheddar cheese, and then you roll them back up, and it's that simple. You cook them as the package instructions. So mine say to cook at 400 degrees, I believe, for 10 to 13 minutes, but you'll be able to tell. So you just flatten out these biscuits. And I only do about half of them at a time because they'll start to shrink back up. I was going to make French bread, and I just was not in the mood for that, and plus I don't have anyone coming over or anyone to share it with, and that's too much bread for me to eat by myself and still be diabetic friendly. So I decided to make these biscuits. And then the other thing we're going to do is something that I've been wanting to can, and that is a black bean and corn salsa. It is in the Canning Diva's newest book, Meals in Jars. The only difference is she cooks it, or she cans it in a water bath, and you know that I'm pretty new to pressure canning and to canning in general. I've only done some really basic jams and salsa prior to this season. And I know that corn relish can be water bath canned, but I was not sure about I know black beans are supposed to be pressure canned, and I know corn by itself is supposed to be pressure canned. So I asked some canning experts, and they felt like there was not enough acid in the recipe to water bath can it, so I will be pressure canning it. You can also make these with cooked sausage. So I'll often make them on a weekend, or I used to, with some cheese and cooked sausage, and they're absolutely delicious. So we'll just wait for the oven to get up to temperature, and then we'll set everything up to do our canning. So I'm doing a couple of things. I'm bringing the water up to boil, and I have a few bad spots on my tomatoes that I am cutting off. And we're going to put these tomatoes in the water for about 2 minutes to try and get the skins to peel off, and then I'm going to dunk them in cold water and peel them so that we can use those for our recipe. And it calls for, I believe, 24 tomatoes. And I had the wrong book. It is her Canning Full Circle book. And this recipe is on page 115. So I need a stock pot. It does call for 1 diced bell pepper. I have a red pepper. And it calls for a jalapeno, so I'm going to have to go out to my garden and see if I still have any good jalapenos on the vine. We pulled our biscuits out. They smell yummy. So let these cool a second. And I did have some jalapeno. I'm not wearing gloves, so I'm going to do this with a paper towel and remove the seeds in the vein. That's where the majority of the heat is. We'll dice this up. So here are our cheddar biscuits. And I'm running out of room, so we'll put those right there. And it calls for a can of black beans. It calls for 2 jalapenos, but because I am not a fan of heat, we're going to just do 1 jalapeno, and I think that'll be plenty. It calls for 1 cup of fresh or frozen corn. So I'm going to use frozen corn. It calls for 2 red onions. Calls for 8 cloves of minced garlic. These are very tiny cloves, so I'm going to use what I have. Alright, so our water is hot, so let's add our tomatoes. We'll do just a few at a time. Chop up our cilantro. It calls for a 1/2 cup. She does not call for these tomatoes to be peeled. But I don't know if it's just Roma tomatoes that are harder to peel or if my water's not hot enough, but this is miserable. I can see why she doesn't call for them to be peeled. Now that one peeled right off. I'm kind of thinking it's probably because these are store-bought tomatoes. I couldn't find any locally grown Romas, and I should have just used regular homegrown tomatoes because this is miserable. And if this were my introduction to canning tomatoes, I would never can them again. I did eat a biscuit to make myself feel better, and they're delicious. Okay, we need a half a cup of lime juice. And 3/4 of a cup of apple cider vinegar. A tablespoon of salt, and we want to make sure that we're using kosher or canning salt. And a half a teaspoon of black pepper. So we have 24 Roma tomatoes cored and chopped, 2 red onions chopped, 2 jalapenos finely chopped, 1 bell pepper chopped, 1 cup of corn, fresh or frozen, 1.5 cups of black beans, 3/4 of a cup of apple cider vinegar, half a cup of lime juice, half a cup of coarsely chopped fresh cilantro, 8 cloves of garlic minced, 1 tablespoon of sea salt, half a tablespoon of black pepper. And we are going to bring all of this to a boil on medium-high heat, stirring often to avoid scorching. Reduce heat and simmer for 30 minutes. Okay, as I mentioned before, I keep hot water in my jars after I wash them, and then use that to fill my canner. And we're going to go ahead and fill these jars. And we want a 1/2 inch of headspace. We need to wipe our rims with vinegar. You'll see a different angle. I broke my tripod while I was going into my other room, my canning room, to get the vinegar, and so I'm using my outside tripod, which doesn't have a ring light on it, but that's the second one of the tripod that I've broken that has the ring light, so maybe I don't need those. Alright, and we're going to can this for the length of time that it takes to can beans, which is 75 minutes for pints. So we're going to put it on high, do 75 minutes. Oh, make sure this is on exhaust. And then we'll come back when it goes down to E0 and put it on airtight, and then it will start the 75 minutes. Okay, friends, it has been 75 minutes and then an hour. I think I probably should let them sit a little longer than an hour. I will reread the instructions. But that is it, friends. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you enjoyed the biscuits and our black bean and corn salsa canning. This brings me up to 245 jars canned. So I'm pretty excited about that. If you did enjoy today's video, give it a like or a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel, Healing Cottage Homestead, on YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I post videos. Don't you love to hear that ping? I post homestead video content every Sunday at noon Eastern, often food preservation, canning, things like that. But I also post diabetic friendly recipes every Tuesday and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And like I said, always diabetic friendly, often low carb, slow cooker, instant pot, and even sometimes gluten-free and vegetarian. I really enjoyed our time together today, friends, and I look forward to preserving with you again soon. Take care.